This next one's called Archaeopteryx, which for those of you who might not know, the Archaeopteryx is basically a transitional fossil. Risotto was the caterer's specialty. I spent hours rinsing it from china and scrubbing it from the pans it simmered in. Some days I can still smell it on my hands, along with the slightest breath of cold prime rib and slightly sickening bouquet of great day-old salmon. As bright and beautiful as they are, do the cardinals nesting in an eave of the porch carry on their talons the worm's scent? Or for that matter, hyenas the stench of the carcasses they ripped apart on the veldt, where last week they found a 9-year-old's 2 million-year-old skull, no longer ape, not yet man. It's been years since I bussed tables and washed dishes. You would have thought the smells would dissipate. But who can, despite the lengths he will go to, conceal the less refined aspects of his evolution? There was the trumpet I nearly broke in the 7th grade, carrying it to school in the bottom of my book bag, because I was afraid what the other kids might think. The lenses in my glasses, which were so thick for years I refused to wear them, gleaned only an impression of the world through which I passed, and was so shy when I finally did, my diffidence was like a straitjacket. I broke up with Amy because I lied to my little corner of the cafeteria about getting to second base, and inexplicably thought that that diminutive piece of hyperbole wouldn't get back to her if I just changed the story. I faked injuries for attention, threatened suicide when I drank too much vodka on a pier in Rhode Island, tried after too much wine to claim the mild abrasions I'd suffered during my antiseptic life were an emotional match for Laney's siblingless childhood with a single mother who didn't quite speak the language. There were classes I skipped, anesthetic jobs I worked, always elusive potential never quite reached far enough for. I was once asked in an interview to pinpoint the moment I became who I am, ostensibly the person they wanted to hire, as if life were stop motion, as if it were possible to reconcile position and direction. But I'm never who I am, only who I was and yet long to be. Fossils of my experience may be preserved in embarrassing layers of sediment. My teeth and tail might be reptiles, but still I hope the wings I'm sprouting lead to flight. These next two are joined by snails. And they are actually written at one another. The second poem is a response to the first poem written about a year later. The first one is the proliferation of snails. She comments on it as one drags itself with its species hackneyed resolved across the porch's stone landing. Their flattened shells spirals fleck the sidewalk, crushed, inadvertently by women climbing the hill from church, deliberately by the less mischievous children for whom this rapacious act of summer boredom is, hopefully, as close as they will get to inhibition. The slugs, too, are out at night when I walk the dogs, slithering from the upturned earth of the garden on one side of the short path from the sidewalk to the porch landing, seeking shelter in the same soothing dirt on the other, impeded in their lethargic tracks by wet noses. The dogs can't decide what sticks shifting like oil are. The slugs unsure what black softness could be depriving them of the cool bath-like comfort of soil. Salt kills slugs, she tells me, sucks the water from their spineless bodies, which shrivel up like burnt toast. And I'm struck by the harmless cruelty, the first fast link in the chain of humanity between her, whom I love, idolize almost, in defiance of biblical prescription, and that which makes the cannibalistic violence plaguing our species possible. Would cardboard do the trick? Let me pick it up, bring it in the house, protect it. We have 2 dogs and a fish. What more of a burden could a snail be? As a child, I kept a caterpillar on the back porch in a Cool Whip bowl my mother rinsed and dried for the purpose. But I remember the end to which it came. A kicked football upending the container, which, when retrieved, was empty, the caterpillar gone, as I suppose will be the fish and dogs soon, and the countless snails and slugs I bend at night like a Maltese to examine with the child's avidity. And then in response, in this heat attenuation. She doesn't comment on it, but this year there are not nearly as many flattened shells flecking the sidewalk and path from it to the front porch through the garden wilting in this heat on either side. The topsoil resembles the burnt cheese crust of a casserole left too long in the oven, forkfuls of which, for her, you force down with copious amounts of water. But what am I talking about? Here on the 3rd floor, under the eaves of a Victorian that they split into condos during the housing bubble, before the housing bubble that just burst, leaving us like a patch of floating garbage underwater on a mortgage we secured with almost nothing down. We don't dare cook in the sea. We charge takeout, discard the styrofoam, grow fat festering on the faux leather couch into which we melt, until we can't tell where the chemically treated material ends and we begin. The snails, apparently they didn't hatch this year, or whatever the zoological term is for what snails do when they emerge into this world. Or cooked in dry, shallow dirt by an overripe sun, they shriveled up when they did hatch, as hot and miserable in their unair-conditioned yellow and black spiraled huts as we were before we broke down and drove to the nearest Home Depot, whose parking lots stretch away like salt flats. With a 10,000 BTU unit in the front window, we neither see nor hear the neighbor's dog, or the firecrackers the kids light now they've moved up from crushing snails. Even the sound of the fire engines that respond to the flames that lick the triple-deckers, just so much kindling in this heat, are drowned in the unremitting hum. We're comfortably ignorant of the plight of the snails, their attenuation, if you will, as the kids were last summer when they crushed them for the patterns their shells left on the sidewalk, or church-going women in their high heels and Sunday best, who trod the helpless gastropods, oblivious to all but their own salvation. And this is my last poem. This is like, if you're a U2 fan, this is like my bad. This is a poem I read whenever I do read. It happens to be my wife's favorite, which is probably why I do it. It's called 513. The meteorologist claims tomorrow the sun will rise at exactly 5:12. But the minute is simply too blunt an instrument for measuring time. Even seconds are easily parsed, by the 10th, the 100th, the nano. Honestly, you can sit up all night in the east-facing dormer in the house on the hill overlooking the bay and still miss it. Black becomes gray, gray-red, red-pink, pink-gold. That cloud formation there, east-southeast, I swear it looks like the elongated Greenland on Mercator's misleading map. And through it, when it does rise, the sun will emerge, vaporous tendrils rolling off it like water from the shoulders of a swimmer breaking a calm ocean surface. From the steeple you say resembles a witch's hat a crow caws. From the roof of the red brick building next door, a row of gargoyles in the skulking light, its murder answers. By the time your gaze returns to the horizon, it's too late. Its head is up, crown of a red-orange orb dripping clouds. Go ahead. Continue to sit up nights. In the end, you'll only ever be able to guess when they turn to day. For thin is the line that divides any one thing from another. Night from day, light from dark, old from young. Thank you.